Good afternoon out there. Thank you for joining us. This is Nigeria Now on Equa Television International. And just remember that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Just do well to join us as we do this conversation together. And in the studio, I have my colleague, Joyce Jakada.
As always.
Always ready.
A pleasant afternoon to you. When I
Yeah.
heard you say it, Nigeria Now. Yes, it's Nigeria Now. Nigeria is a great country. It is our country, and we'll continue to be here to support the country with our constructive criticism. And when the country is doing well, we applaud it. It's Nigeria Now. My pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you. It's raining season, you know, the cold and then water flowing everywhere, and then landslide in some areas in the country. And it is very, very important to know that this time times that people need to clear their drainages, you know, people need to be cautious of how water flow, and then create channel, stop building on water channels, and then allow the water to flow, because of this issue of flood, the issue of warning from the NIMED, how some areas will be affected. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you that the past few days have been, we've experienced downpour of rainfall. I cut across different states in the country. And of course, yesterday I was reminiscing, I said some farmers will be rejoicing, even though some market people will be saying, oh, I couldn't sell anything because of the rainfall. But what is more important of concern is the issue of the flooding. You recall that in 2022 it was really devastating, like the impact. We saw how that even one of the biggest rice farm in Nigeria, Olam Rice, was affected, and they lost millions of naira, which of course at the end of the day impacted in our markets. There was inflation, prices of things hiked. In fact, there are people that will say, oh, my state have nothing to do with flood and all of that, but whether you like it or not, indirectly you face the impact, because at some point some of these tankers could not cross to other states. We saw in Abuja how that there was scarcity even around us due to the fact that most of these tankers could not move. Some of them had to cross from Kogi to other states and all of that, but the devastating effect or impact of flooding around those areas is something that nobody will want to experience. I know that we have talked about, oh, it's important that government come out with proactive measures in order to avert the happening. Some will say, oh, it's such flood happens like in 10 years and all of that. So should we wait till the 10 years before we do anything about it? Life of every Nigerian is important, and we shouldn't see that each time is always reactive measures. From the last year, from the time that we experience or start experiencing the flooding, is expected that measures are being put in place in order to avert that. But as we speak right now, there was landslide in Imo yesterday, and it resulted to loss of lives of some family members. And not just that, there are issues of erosion even in the southwest. Like one of the community in Ondo State, talking about Ayitoro, that community is almost going extinct because of issues of flood. Government officials have gone there and all of that. At state level, they will tell you ecological fund that we receive is not even enough for us to do anything in that place. A lot of people say, oh, from budget allocation, there's always issue of ecological fund, billions of naira being allocated, yet states that are affected with flood don't feel any impact. But we don't have to wait till it happens to us before we do anything about it. Neymar gave one in October, November last year, but yet you see people throwing things at waterways, people not leaving even water areas where they lived, where they live. I think it is really not proper. When people are in position, they should take advantage of it to serve the people. It's an opportunity for you to serve the people, not take advantage of the people. See, if it means to evacuate people by force, let's do it. It's better than not evacuating people, then we counting scores of people that died. The people that, most of the people that settled around Surulere area, at some point they were evacuated from one of the flood-prone area, and at least, even though they were not happy about it, but they were safe. So today we hear people saying, government saying, leave where you are, and people keep asking, where do you want us to go to, and all of that. So we can like actually evacuate people from where they are, give them places where they can stay for the meantime while you deal with all of that. Provisions of more dams could also help in averting all of that problem. It's raining season. We don't want to start counting scores of people that died due to flooding and all of that. So let's see government being very proactive in terms of securing the environment and even providing succor to people.
while government are thinking of how to provide the necessary things that they should. I think it is important we, the citizens, too, should do our own part.
That's
you
true.
know, in your local area, how do you dispose your waste? You know, do you normally take time to clear your drainages? You know, in order to allow water to flow easily, because these are some of the things that we on our own part we have to do before while we wait for the government to do their own part. You know, federal government will commence implementation of student loans by September.
Well, the signing, Sambo Solomon, of even the student loan bill into law by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the 12th of June 2023, for most people is something that you can liken to fulfillment of his campaign promise. Maybe the tag renewed hope, and that is why on the 12th you saw him signing such bill to make sure that people have access, especially to tertiary education. Like poverty shouldn't be an excuse why you cannot go to school. You know that Nigeria is one of the countries that has about that has people, like more people living in poverty, and then we have a lot of brilliant students that go through the primary, secondary school education but don't have access to tertiary education, and that's because they don't have the fund. Like they come from family that barely feed on half 3 square meal, talk more of even going to the higher institution. Today our tuition fee at tertiary education level is free, but some of the charges you pay at the end of the day is really something else. So I think it's a wise one, is a good one coming from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, signing that bill, which was sponsored by the outgone Speaker of the House of Reps, talking about Femi Gbajabiamila, whom just the day before yesterday actually resigned from being a member of the House of Reps to continue with his duty as Chief of Staff to President Tinubu. And then I think it was a good move. He sponsored that bill sometimes last year in November, and then we saw how it passed second reading in May, and Tinubu signed that bill. So it's going to give, it's something that is obtainable in other countries like USA. In fact, some African countries like Namibia also, they have such laws. So it's something that is obtainable in other countries. And because of that, I think is a good one. But the concern that people often share about some of these policies that are very good is the fact that such policies, like if you don't have the right people, it might be abused. Such policies might be abused, and that's the concern that a lot of people have shared. So the federal government has said that the fund will be domiciled in the Ministry of Education. There will be a bank that will be like the student loan bank, but for you to have access to that, you must go through the tertiary institution, and then it's just for you to fund your tertiary education. And then the student loan, like I said, is obtainable in almost in other clients, other countries. So people have shared some concern. How do you pay? Because you are expected to pay at the end of the day. I recall that yesterday I said, in fact, defaulters like risk 2 years imprisonment or a fine of 500,000 or even both. So how do you pay in a country where you can graduate and still stay 4 or 5 years without even getting a job, and then you're expected that 2 years after your NYC you should start paying that particular loan? So how do you pay? But the president actually assured Nigerians of job, providing more jobs and all of that, and it's expected that when you start working, 10% of your salary will be used to pay that particular money or that particular loan that you use in paying your tertiary institution. Most of our leaders today, most of the people at the helms of affairs enjoyed what you call, we can call free education. And that is why I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu saw the need that Nigerians, poverty should not even be an excuse for you not to go to school. But like I said, I don't want to be pessimistic. I don't want to lose hope. We've seen how that schemes like this in the past, how it didn't benefit the people that it was intended for. Schemes like scholarship and all of that. You see at the end of the day, the the poorest of the poor don't even have access. Those people that are indigent, like, they don't have access. It is about who you know. People bring in politics into that, and you end up seeing people that can actually afford the school fees given that opportunity, and those that cannot afford the school fees don't have the opportunity. But then they said they have studied other schemes that have failed and seen why it failed. So this one is going to be really, they talked about the fact that for you to assess it, it has to be through the tertiary institution. So it means they know who cannot afford it. In fact, if you earn 500, less than 500,000 per annum, then you will have access. But if you earn, like, you have parents that earn above 500,000 per annum, if you divide that, that's about 42,000. So if you earn for 2,000 and above, you can't have access. It must be people that earn less than 42,000. I talk about maybe 41,000 downward, then you should have access to that. So I hope they follow all of that, because if these are the processes that they are going to follow, then there's hope for people who don't have access to all of that. So that and at the end of the day, we have more people acquiring education. Show me a country that is developed, you see people that are well skilled, people that are educated. At the end of the day, they bring their knowledge, they bring their ideas, they bring their skills, and they uplift their nation. So I think, like I said earlier on, we will not be pessimistic. It's just that who are the people that are going to be handling this scheme? Even though the president talked about the fact that they are going to be stakeholders in education. NANS have already visited the president saying they don't want ASU as well as the Nigerian Bar Association to be part, but students should be part of such union. The concern, who are the people at the end of the day? Committee has been set up already. Disbursement, of course, it will begin in September 2023-2024 academic session. By September, people should have access to that. Committee have been set in place, and by June 20th, they are going to be inaugurated and all of that. We hope that they go in line with the policy. At the end of the day, it won't be about who I know. And then even on the part of the student, there are people that feel, oh, it's national cake, so let me just have my share, even if I can't afford the school fees. We have that mentality. When policies come up, people like to take advantage of it. So we shouldn't see it as national cake, going for it, depriving those people that cannot have access to it. So I just hope that at the end of the day, we'll do the needful. We are optimistic it will work if we put our heart to it, and if we get the right people on board. So at the end of the day, and then people have shared concern about, if it's 2 years after, what if I don't get job? But the federal government said no, they will ensure that, you know, now employment, there are informations that you definitely give and all of that. So it is when you get employed that they start that. So let's anchor on the promises of the president of providing job opportunity and all of that. Above all, it's a welcome idea. It's a good policy. At least we hope to have more people going to school. Out of school, students will be reduced and all of that.
Well, it's a good one. We say kudos to Mr. President, and we hope that, like you rightly said, let's see the right people with the right mindset, like the way the president is even looking at the scheme, because he's wanting you as Mr. President and say, this scheme, this is what you want to do, and then people that you want them to implement that thing are not thinking in your own direction. You know, they are thinking something different. So I know, you know, the Mr. President is so passionate concerning the youth, because you remember when he received his certificate of return, he said he listened, he had the youth, you know, when they were speaking, he said he had them so loud, and then he would do something about it. And I think this is the right step in the right direction. But I have a concern when you talk about the educational system entirely. You know, I'm just looking at it. Is it the tertiary institution that you have to pay a tuition fee once in a year, or the second, the primary part of it that, you know, you spend a lot, and then you have parents that earn less than 20,000 naira, you know, and then they have 4 or 5 children, you know, going through the primary the primary education, like, you know, the secondary. I'm just feeling, I said, why can't we just, if we make the primary section and then leave the tertiary section to be optional? That's my own opinion. You know, I just feel, because if you look at it, then when the government schools are functioning, somebody of primary 6, you know, somebody that today you can put him side by side with somebody that is any degree now.
Well, Nigeria currently, as far as primary and secondary education, like, primary education is concerned, is free. Even the secondary, during President Goodluck Jonathan, there were 4 models, like there were girls model school that was introduced, junior secondary school, and then it is expected that it's free. In fact, even at the tertiary institution, the tuition fee is free. But like you said, the concern is at the end of the day, is it truly free? Because you are paying for exam levy, you're paying for this levy. At the end of the day, accumulated, you see you're paying thousands of naira. And then, can the parents afford it? That's the question. So are our primary schools, our secondary school truly free? The government school, like it's not supposed to be you're not supposed to pay school fees in the government school. But at the end of the day, these levels, when you accumulate it, it becomes you're paying for the education. So people have been asking the question: is it truly free? So concern have to also be given to the primary and secondary school. What are even the states of our primary school and secondary school, the government primary and secondary? What are the states? Because if you're asking people that, oh, prioritize the private school, even the leaders, how many of them have their children going to the primary school and even the secondary school? At some point, the former governor of Kaduna State, we saw how he took his child to the public school, but how long did the child stay there? At some point, we had, so was it like some political purpose or all of that? But at the end of the day, the child was withdrawn and reason, security reasons and all of that. So what about other children who don't have security challenge? So we must focus, we must also give attention to the primary and even secondary education. Are they truly free? What needs to be done? There are plenty, I think so many things have been introduced, superb, other policies were introduced to aid free education, free feeding programs, so that children can go to school and to support the education at different levels, primary and secondary school level. But how viable are all these policies? So attention needs to be given. When you walk down to some of these states, local government areas, and you see the state of our primary and secondary school, it's so disheartening. So I think we need to prioritize the primary and the secondary education. These are foundations. In fact, one of the requirements for assessing the student loan for the tertiary education is that you must be intelligent. As a student, you are eligible, but if you are not intelligent, you can't have access. So what is the definition of the intelligence you get? So if you don't have a good foundation, it means that you can't even be classified under
the loan is not for you.
So at the end of the day, you see people that went to the private schools, or the still rich people that can afford having access to it, because there's already a tag intelligence. So we must also focus attention on the foundation, primary and secondary education, so that we can have the intelligent student that can have access to the tertiary education. So that at the end of the day, the loan will not just be assessed by people that went to private school, private secondary and then primary school, who are intelligent, in quotes, that will have access to that.
Well, I believe, the government are listening and they will do something about it. It is very key. It is very important. EFCC Chairman Bauer suspended from office.
That's a big one. And then for some people, the suspension of the, I don't know if I'll call him former or what, the suspension of Abdul Rashid Bauer is a shock, but some people will tell you it's even coming late, because we expected that he should be suspended earlier on. 15 days into office of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a lot of things have happened. Suspension of CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, now indefinite suspension of Abdul Rashid Bauer, amongst many other decisions and bills that he has signed into law. 15. Some people have said, oh, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have done what other administrations have not done in 8 years and 4 years and all of that. But Nigerians are actually watching. People have even compared these 15 days, his 15 days, to even President Muhammadu Buhari's 8 years, saying that President Buhari actually took us backward, took us to the days of Kankaum. Look at economy, instability, corruption. Like as it is, Nigeria is actually currently in this, currently in a state of say corruption, is corruption trap. Like look at the issue of insecurity and all of that. So people said, oh, President Muhammadu Buhari actually took us 10 years backward, because we were more like in the days of canker-worms. We were 15 days into office of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, a lot of decisions, a lot of policies and all of that. It's just unfortunate that the suspension of the EFCC chairman is coming at a time where he's having public rifts with politicians, at a time where transition has taken place, where you expect that probe will begin of state governance and all of that. You recall that this suspension is coming as a result of accusation of misuse of office. People have complained, people have protested. The Bawa Must Go protest took place across states. CSOs have called on President Muhammadu Buhari before he left office to actually suspend, remove Bawa, and they held on to the flag, Bawa must go and all of that. And reasons being that, oh, he has misused the office, the way he went about with arrests and all of that. So also the former governor of Zamfara, talking about Bello Matawali, also accused him of fraud and also diversion of money to the tune of 70 billion naira. He also said that the EFCC chairman, talking about Bawa, has actually requested that he give him a bribe of $2 million. And a lot of the suspension is beginning to open doors to so many revelation. Bawa, that was appointed on the 16th of February 2021 by President Buhari, recall that it was on the 24th of same February that he was actually confirmed by the National Assembly as the chairman of the EFCC. But it's so unfortunate that a lot of things are already happening. Revelations are actually coming to many. Like I said earlier on, it is a shock, but for some, they actually expected that this should have even happened even much earlier because of the reason of abuse of office following arrest and the interrogation, saying he's not even following the due process that he should follow. So, like I said, all these are allegations, and he's already been invited by the DSS. Investigation definitely is going on, and then Nigerians are watching keenly. Recall I said this is coming at a time where people are expecting that most of these governors that are going to be probed and all of that. So people are going to watch keenly because this is going to define if really the anti-corruption fight of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is holistic. So you get, so Nigerians are watching and they will follow it keenly. So he has already been asked to, he has handed over to the next person in rank in the EFCC, and then Director of Operations. So he has already handed over. So for Nigerians, they are watching keenly. Let's see if truly the anti-corruption fight of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, what he has said during his campaign is really what, or it's like politically motivated and all of that. So we hope that the right thing be done. That's what Nigerians are concerned about.
Yeah, because the concerns of Nigeria is that because we saw many regimes, that were probing some officials in court, and then at the end of the day, you will hear that this person is under investigation, and then before you know, everything is just quiet. You will not hear anything about the outcome of the investigation, whether the person is being prosecuted or not. You will just see the person, just going freely as if, there was nothing. And just for recent, people were saying, okay, if you're talking about corrupt leaders and the rest, what about the issue of Nigerian Air, And they were like, the man is still strolling, freely. And then,
one thing about Nigeria is the fact that most of these issues will come up, committees will be set, and then most times you hear nothing, no prosecution, and then nothing. But we don't want to continue on this trajectory. We are talking about the life of Nigerians. We're talking about the welfare of Nigerians. Look at the past years, how people have suffered. Look at even the case of, like the corruption that I said, Nigeria is actually trapped by corruption. Look at over 16 trillion that cannot be accounted. Saying that it was paid for first subsidy. The same issue that committees were set in 2012 to investigate that. Till today, nothing was heard. Nobody was arrested. Nobody is being prosecuted. Not until we begin to do the needful. Like we'll keep going on this same circle. Oh, this person has been suspended. This person has been arrested. At the end of the day, names, you hear that, oh, there are people that are behind sponsorship of terrorism and all of that, yet at the end of the day we don't see anybody being prosecuted. Why? Because I have some party affiliation, or so most time the arrest almost looks like witch hunting people and all of that. Let the needful, beyond affiliation, beyond all these nepotic practices and all of that. Let's look at the general interest of Nigeria. Let people, leaders should not see, like I said earlier, an opportunity to serve. It should be an opportunity to serve, not an opportunity for you to take advantage of the people that actually appointed you to that office at their own detriment. We hope to see true service from the heart to the people.
Well, we have a lot to discuss, but Joyce, unfortunately, time is not on our side. Thank you so much for doing this with me today.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and for the viewer out there, we sincerely appreciate you. We pray that you keep hope with us at Equa Television International. Let's do this tomorrow. Same station, same time, and God bless you.